meeting. So first, entertain a motion to accept as submitted the minutes for the special meeting of March 2nd, 2021.
I make a motion to approve them.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No abstentions, I believe. Okay, next, entertain a motion to accept as submitted the minutes for the special meeting from March 4th, 2021.
So moved.
Can we get a second?
A second.
All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, last set, I believe. Entertain a motion to accept as submitted the minutes from the regular meeting of March 9th, 2021.
I'd make a motion to approve them.
Second.
All right. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No abstentions. Oh, wait. Do we have abstentions? I think we have abstentions, right? The March 9th meeting. No? Okay. All right. Next on the agenda, consideration of the public hearing comments from last night. What I'd like to do is to start like we have in the prior years by going around the horn with the individual members of the Board of Finance to get people's thoughts as to what they heard for the purposes of, at the end of the discussion, motioning whether to put or what to put forward to the annual town meeting. So in that regard, maybe we can start by kind of the typical approach, right? Let's go with Robert as vice. Robert, could you share with us your thoughts from last night, please?
Certainly, thank you. So it was good to see 120 some participants participating in Zoom. It was interesting that I think only 11 different speakers addressed the public hearing. That's, I think, a low number since I've been on the board. But there was good, credible input. It seemed like there were maybe 3 or 4 comments on the Parks and Recreation piece of it, which probably bear further discussion. But largely, I think that I was heartened that there seems to be kind of a broad support for the recommendations we have already made. And I'm happy that there wasn't any huge disagreement with the overall effort we've made to make some cuts. There were, of course, some procedural questions that I think were adequately addressed in terms of publication and interpretation of what the publications need to be of the meetings. And I think that was adequately addressed by our different board members. So in all, I'm heartened with what we have, and I'm very happy to go forward with the budget as we have crafted it and had 7-0 approval. So, or maybe it was 6-0 approval, 1 abstention. So those are my comments.
All right, thank you, Robert. Brian, would you mind sharing with us your thoughts, please?
I was actually surprised at the lack of comments, to be honest with you, and I didn't really know how to take it. I think, we heard from some people from the Parks and Rec Commission who spoke, eloquently. I think we heard some people from the Board of Ed who, spoke, their piece, and, we heard from Billy and, Phil. But I don't know what to think. I was expecting a 3-4 hour meeting. I thought there was going to be a lot more public comment. And I was kind of taken back at the fact that no one really had much to say. So I'm kind of at a loss. I don't think that, I'm fine sending the budget through to the voters, but what's going to happen, I really don't know. The lack of this is, I mean, I've been on the board, I think this is my 6th year, and this is the least amount of public comment, you know, I've seen. And out of the 11, I think 2 of them spoke twice. So I think we actually had 9 speakers. So that's it.
Good deal. Thanks, Brian. Delene, your thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with everything that's been said. And I think Robert mentioned maybe we should take a look at Parks and Rec again. I have a sort of, I don't know, I think the way that I think about the Parks and Rec cut is that we took less than a quarter of the funding. I know that's a lot of money, and I know that it's money that has always been put to very good use. You know, but I'm wondering if there's a way to kind of revisit that maybe in the October timeframe and see how things are going with Parks and Rec. I feel like nobody has really a crystal ball. You know, I hear Dr. Carver talk about the fact that we're definitely going to have to do COVID mitigation in the fall. So she's expecting, and I think, you know, it makes sense that there's still going to be COVID around the fall, especially with no vaccine for children. And, you know, I think Eileen is planning a very robust program schedule, which I really hope comes to fruition. But I feel like that cut is perhaps, at this point, a prudent thing to do so that we don't overtax people, and maybe revisit the situation in October with Eileen to see how things are going, see where we are with COVID, and really assess, you know, does it make sense to put that $100,000, you know, back into their budget so that they can then plan for fourth quarter kind of programs. You know, I think there should be plenty of money in there to plan for first quarter and second quarter programs at this point. So that's my thinking on Parks and Rec. That to me was the big takeaway last night, of that people are concerned about the Parks and Rec programs. And I think, you know, I in particular, I think all of us will probably be very happy if we were wrong to take that money out and have to put it back.
That's a great idea. Thank you. We're just in conclusion. So where are you kind of at the end of the day with respect to this proposal? Are you okay to send it to the?
Yeah, sorry. I would send this proposal forward and hope that the voters support it.
Okay, thank you. Cynthia, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was surprised that not more people commented, but I do have a couple of thoughts. And, you know, don't drop dead, but I honestly think we should put the money back into Park and Rec. I immediately regretted voting for it, but it came kind of, you know, or I was like, hey, a cut, you know, but I actually, thinking about it, I believe that they are going to start up. The schools are open, Park and Rec's going to be open. And here's what I would, I'm not going to make a motion right now, but what I would want to do is put 100 back into Park and Rec and take the same amount, take 40 out of the police, the amount that would be one car, and 60 out of the 450, the Board of Ed. And that's because we are, as a town and as a school district, not counting the first 2 ESSER grants. I just came out in the Current today that, I'm trying to get the information here, that Bethel, the town of Bethel, non-education they call it, is going to be close to $2 million. And the education portion is going to be close to $3 million. I pretty much think that you could count on that money being able to be used for a wide range of things that have to do with mitigating COVID. And additionally, I know that Matt referred to the Treasury has a clawback policy, which to me is a terrible word, clawback. Sounds so fierce. But I doubt that in 5 years, even if there's another administration, even a conservative administration, they're not going to claw back the money thinking that you spent it unwisely. So that's what I think. I wouldn't mind sending a 1.9 increase. I would rather it be lower, but I really do feel strongly about Park and Rec. I think they got hosed. And I think, and I'll just say one other thing, just food for thought. In general, the process that we followed this year and prior years, but more so this year, there's a lot of horse trading going on behind the scenes that makes it almost seem like, why are we here? You know, because there's a lot of things that go on, that discussions that don't have anything to do with the Board of Finance. I know that because when I'm surprised by things, that motions that are made, that who knows what anybody's thinking. But that said, those are my thoughts. I do believe that there are ways that to mitigate this stuff in the future, because I know that Matt has talked about what's called the tax stabilization account, which would be a separate account that would come from the general fund, not as much to tamper with our rating, but just to have under very strict rules. I just believe that the school, I've never experienced in my lifetime or participation in this town where the school's success has flagged in any way, no matter what we cut from the budget. They continue to be excellent. Just because we don't spend as much per student just means that we're smart. So I can't, it's not that I don't appreciate them, I do. But I also think the town needs to focus on, you know, maintenance, and I don't think it's right for the town to get whittled away the way it usually does. I think that the 460 account that is on the town side, there are going to be a lot of things that grant money is going to cover. So, you know, I don't wish the education department any ill will. I just believe that this is a time when their needs are going to be met beyond. I mean, the federal government is making it rain. So, you know, take it for what it's worth. Anyway, that's what I got.
Cynthia, I'm sorry. So as a whole, and maybe you want to wait until we get to the next stage, are you thinking that you're okay with sending this to the annual town meeting or not?
Not as is, not with the 100 taken from PNR. And then I would want to balance it out with a couple of motions to cut other places.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So not as it stands, the 1.9%, you know, it's very difficult because I think I think people's comments, I think the lack of comments do not necessarily mean that people are okay with the 1.9%. I'd like to see it a little lower, but I'm not 100% averse to 1.9, but I am troubled about the Park and Rec cut.
Thank you.
I hope
Nick?
Okay. I was encouraged that there was 118 people on the call, but my take, and I've lived in town all my life, I think everybody's just holding their breath. And they were like, okay, you guys are doing what you're supposed to do. You're making some cuts, but people aren't all okay. You know, some people are good, but some people get W-2s. Their checks are smaller each week if they're even employed. Again, Bob, you made a point, is 7.3% of Bethel residents are unemployed right now. That amazes me. My life hasn't changed, and I'm too busy to even look around. But to hear those numbers, it's startling. And that is it's not the people that are underemployed or are working 4 days a week. You know, so that shocks me. To say everybody's doing great in Bethel, I think is a false statement. That's some of that fake news. Going back to the Park and Rec, I wasn't okay with it. You know, some of those programs may be the only adults some of these kids see. And I think, you know, years ago, we were starting to have pay for play and all that. And again, a single mom may not be able to, you know, afford it, but she thinks it's important enough to have those programs. So I would be okay with putting that money back in, but it would have to be offset with others, again, other cost saving measures. Again, overtime in the police department. I think the Board of Ed, and again, Terry and Dr. Carver don't have to comment right now, but I would like to hear some of their comments about nearly $3 million. Again, last week, they made a proposal, what they need to teach our kids. And for the people that say we don't support our kids in this town, $49 million for 3,100 kids tells me that we support our kids. So I hate when people say we don't support our kids in Bethel. $49 million last time I checked is a lot of money for 3,100 kids. I appreciate what they all do up there, and I hear great stories what's going on up there, and I'm encouraged. But please don't say we don't support our kids at $49 million for 1 year of that school to be run up there. That's without debt services. We just spent $60 million on 2 schools up there. We support our kids, but I'm not going to get off on that. But I would like to hear some way that they're going to spend, after they told us what they need, they're getting additional $3 million. I would love to hear what else we need that we're going to spend $3 million. So before tonight's over, I'd like to hear what's going on with that. But again, I don't think everybody is great. And I'd rather be on the side of caution than, just say, hey, you guys need to wake up and this virus is over. It's not over. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of pieces that haven't gone in play yet. So I would go with Cynthia on a cut in some areas, but putting the Park and Rec back. 1.9, Bob, I know you're going to ask me. I would support it, but I would like to move that 100,000 back into that program account. And again, if there is a surplus at the end, there's a surplus at the end, however this virus goes. But 1.9 I would support, but I would like to move that around a little bit. And if everybody's not in agreement, then I would vote to send it to the people.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. Karen.
Well, I heard everybody's concerns about Park and Rec, and as people have said, it was really only 9 people who spoke, but we don't know who didn't speak, who had the same thoughts and was just silently nodding their heads. But the concern that I kept hearing is that our kids need these programs. Our parents need these programs. The parents need to be able to send their kids to the Parks and Rec program as daycare so that they can work at their jobs and so on. I think that was a very important thing to hear. But my understanding is that we haven't cut anything in the summer programs. The summer programs are planned, the budget is there. What we were talking about as the Board of Finance is, hey, we're going to hold back your money for your winter programs because we don't know if COVID is coming back again with a vengeance. We don't know if you can run your winter programs, and we don't want the same thing to happen that happened last year, which is that we funded it and didn't get to spend it. You didn't get your programs. We collected your tax money. The programs couldn't happen because of COVID. So I think that I want an assurance that, yeah, we're okay. The summer programs are going to run. The fall programs are going to start up. And then in October or so, let's get back together and talk about, okay, where are we with COVID? What do you need to run your winter programs? Which ones make sense to run? Are we good? And go forward at that point. So I'm definitely not in favor of cutting Parks and Rec programs, but I don't think we've done that for summer and perhaps for fall. And therefore, I'm okay with this 100,000 cut from Parks and Rec. I'm okay with the budget as is. We didn't hear a lot of people stand up and scream and say, you're taking too much of my money, taxes are too high, that sort of thing. Again, they might be thinking it, but this was their opportunity to say it, and it just wasn't there. So I'm in favor of putting the budget forward as it is, and maybe having some more conversations about, okay, this doesn't mean that you're losing your summer Parks and Rec programs. They should still be there.
Okay, thank you, Karen. I really don't have a lot to add. I think that's a fantastic idea to coordinate closely with Eileen come, I forget when you said it, took a note and I can't even read my own handwriting. Did you say October? But we, working closely with Eileen, again, the intent is not to cut Park and Rec programs. The intent was to avoid what happened last year, which was the taxing of the people, the collection of the tax, and providing no services, right? No fault to anyone, just that COVID was not being agreeable. I think what this board is saying is when we get to January and things are better known, this board will commit to reinstating that money. Because at that point, we know the monies collected from the citizens of Bethel will go for what they expect the payments or those fundings to provide. So I'm okay with moving this to the annual town meeting where hopefully we get more participants, more feedback, and maybe some more targeted feedback. But I think we're all noticing that from last night, it was Park and Rec from the commissioners that got the most comment. And I believe that we will address that. We have addressed that in a way that balances our responsibility to the taxpayer, which is to collect only the amounts that are needed. And when those amounts are collected, they're applied in the way that we said they would be. Balancing that responsibility to the Bethel citizens with making sure we have the funding should COVID be under control later in the year. And in the meantime, again, there's almost $400,000 in the Park and Rec programs. So based on what the numbers look to be so far, that should be sufficient to fund the spring, summer, fall, and maybe even after that. So I thought that's a great idea. So that's a tremendous kind
Can I say one other? Can I mention one other thing? Just as,
Sure.
as we're talking about that, as the schools are getting close to $3 million, hopefully, from federal grants and from state grants, the town is also getting close to $2 million for COVID relief. And maybe there's a way, that it makes sense to be able to consider the shortfall in Parks and Rec program money as a result of COVID, right? Because that is the reason that they would be, perhaps not running as many programs or not have the funding to do as many programs. So, I guess the point is if we wait a little bit, it doesn't hurt us. We get to see a little bit more of what's coming down the road in terms of the virus and also in terms of funding that might come to the town that could be used to augment the Parks and Rec programs.
Right, fair enough. Yeah, it's a good point, right? It is the possibility of identifying yet another possible revenue stream that could compensate for the one. Okay, so based on all that, it seems to me that, Cynthia, yeah, again.
I just want to say that this is something that is a little bit foreign, and it's been happening every year. I don't understand the thing of taking the cut and saying you can come back later. It doesn't work like that. I don't understand that as part of the budget process. I don't understand the continual input and from other sources either, like what happened last night from the Board of Ed. It's not disrespectful. I think that we need to understand the process, and saying we're going to cut this but come back later is a little bit duplicitous in my mind. You could say it out loud, but I don't think a lot of people know that that's the plan. I will say that the programs for Park and Rec, and you know what, drop dead for me saying this, I am fully supporting of that because they are going to rev up their programs. I think you would need that more than anything. And there's some upfront money that's required for them to get those programs going. And I will say this, maybe you don't think they got value last year, but those people from Park and Rec, they were all over the place working. So, they got some value. Maybe it wasn't the value that they thought they should get or that you thought they should get. But I think you just have to think about it a little more, big picture there. Thank you.
And Cynthia, I guess, there's a lot there to unwrap and unpackage, some of which it's probably not appropriate to respond to necessarily right now, but there is a process that we've used before. So to at some point in the future, identify funds for payments. So it's not unusual, and it would not be the first time, right? We have a special.
I said we've done it before. Just it's not part of any budget process I ever have experienced until 3 or 4 years or 3 years ago, or whenever you became the chairman.
So to your point, just being responsive to make sure everyone understands what's going on. We can do it. We have done it. And this board is committing to be able and willing to do it in the future, right? The key in my mind, again, is I want to avoid the repeat of last year where we taxed the citizens, we collected taxes for services that eventually weren't rendered. And that
you're taxing the people anyway with money that could be taken out of other departments. You're targeting Parks and Rec. I know what you're saying about last year. I just respectfully disagree, and I bet other people do too. So
absolutely. And you and I will disagree on this point, right? We're not targeting Park and Rec. We all have the highest regard for the Park and Rec team. They do tremendous work. This is all about just the COVID and the pandemic not allowing them to run programs sometime in January. So look, well, let's get to the heart of it then, right? I mean, you and I will disagree in this one. You know, we'll probably disagree to the end, which is perfectly fine. I think we're probably both comfortable with that. So let's I think next step is go through the motioning process. Bob and Brad, remind me, I think what we need to do at this point is make a motion for all 4 of the categories of the budget. And then perhaps another motion for the town side aggregate of the 3 departments. Is that?
Yes, I would do that. Yeah, because the 3 motions at the town meeting are the town, the Board of Ed, and then the total of all 3. Actually, okay. the town is all 3: debt service and the 460 account.
So for purposes of tonight, is it
I would
single?
do all 4 of them right now. I would do all 4. Yep.
All right. Good enough. All right. So let's begin that. Yeah, Nick, go ahead.
Before any motions are made, can we hear from either the superintendent or from Terry an explanation of what their beliefs that the $3 million is going to be used for? Can we get a little input? I think that'd be helpful if there's any motions made.
Terry, I think you started to address that last night. Can you maybe just go through it again and see if there's any more to add?
And I'll let Dr. Carver start because she just jumped on. So why don't you go ahead, Christine?
Sure. So there's certain percentage of the total grant, and I don't have it right in front of me right now, has to be used for what the federal government terms as learning loss. So a lot of the things that we talked about with regard to our concerns about social emotional well-being, support in literacy and mathematics to catch students up, because we are starting to see some gaps in those areas. We're also going to be using it. So we're talking about and looking at different types of before and after school programs, summer programs to lead up to the school year and next school year. This is all going to go to the board on April 1st, Nick. So this is just our thoughts right now. We're looking at potential of possibly hiring tutors to support kids both in school, before school, and after school. Social emotional coach that we talked about in math interventionist in that previous discussion that we had before. Those are going to be all included in that. We're also looking at some evidence-based research programs that we can use to implement with our students that, again, need to be accelerated back to grade level standards. So we're looking at those too. And we are having conversations about HVAC at the high school, because we know that we still continue to have problems in the 1975 edition. And that's an allowable expense under that grant. And those are the big buckets. Terry, am I missing anything?
No, I think as we talked about last night, there's very targeted areas that are instructional. And then there are areas like ventilation related costs that we do believe in the long term would if we're able to take something off the table for Bethel in the long term, it goes to the financial health of Bethel overall. We're trying to be careful about building a cliff at the end of these few years. But the purpose is to bring everyone back and in those two, mainly in those 2 areas, in the learning and then in the social emotional. And we've been talking about social emotional, we've had some open discussions where the public has participated. It's real. And so it is an opportunity for us to move that forward, and even more so with the result of what the pandemic has done to all of us and the isolation and all the other impacts of that. So we are, as I said last night, looking at the whole picture so that we're making thoughtful and good decisions. Number one are the kids. And then number two is keeping our educational system strong. And third is the financial health of the town of Bethel in the long run.
All right, can I go back to Dr. Carver?
Yep.
Doc, you had said that there's some stuff that we talked about before, but I think you had, I'm sorry, let me ask, is there stuff in there that we just talked about that was in the proposed $49 million budget already? So is this?
Nope.
Anything you talked about is going to be new money from the $3 million. It had nothing to do. You didn't think 2 weeks ago, you didn't think you needed those things and you didn't ask the Board of Ed for them?
No, we very specifically said we knew we were going to receive grant money. And and Melanie's nodding her head because she remembers that conversation. We very specifically said that in the operating budget, we were only going to try to maintain our current programs. So not to burden that on the taxpayers. What we said is we knew we were going to get the grant money. We knew for sure that we were getting ESSER II. And we knew that with the stimulus, with the latest bill, that we might even get more. So we purposely did not include that in the budget because we knew the impact that it was having in the community. So that's why we made that decision. Melanie, I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, that's exactly correct, Dr. Carver. When we made our presentation, we said, but for receiving these grant funds, we'd have to have a social and emotional coach, we'd have to have math interventionists, we'd have to have more support, because if you remember with our budget presentation last year, we told you we had an uptick in our student population, kids with greater needs. So this is a trend we've been seeing and we had to get at it. So yes, Dr. Carver is quite correct. If not for these grant funds, we would have had to have it in our operating budget. So right. The timing was fortuitous that we found that we did.
And Nick, that was laid out right in Dr. Carver's presentation. She went through a whole section of what's in the budget, and then she went through a whole section of what we plan to do with ESSER II. And we haven't changed our thinking on anything we presented that night. Again,
I just like to be reminded. I take little bites and little things. I'm not the smartest guy here. Sometimes I have to be reminded. But Doctor, I think you said there's, the $3 million, thank God we have it so we can get these kids caught up and all that. But what are we going to do when this grant money's gone? Are you going to come back and say we need 12% increase in our salary and benefits?
No, I was pretty clear last time we talked that we understand that. And we understand that this is a 2-year grant. We're hoping that one of them gets extended an extra year, so 3 years. And that's why purposely we're not trying to add a lot of headcount into that. And we do have a couple of positions that we absolutely are going to need: a special ed teacher, the SEL coach, the math interventionist. But I clearly said at that time that when the grant is up 2.5 years from now, we're going to have to make a decision, meaning the Board of Ed, whether or not we want to assume those positions through reallocation, right? We have several things that we could do. We do that all the time. We could eliminate the positions, right? Or third, you're right. We might have to eventually include it in a future budget year, but we're purposely trying not to put ourselves on a cliff and pushing ourselves off the cliff, because we are well aware that that money is short term. And so we know that we have to be very thoughtful in terms of planning for that, so that we don't not only put the Board of Ed, but the town in a position where it could be problematic.
Okay, thank you for answering the questions twice, and I'm sorry you had to repeat.
No, it's okay. We do it every day. I totally understand.
And we're living it every day. You're not living it every day.
Yeah.
And the other thing we're keenly aware of on the flip side, Nick, is when we lose positions in our operating budget, it is so hard to ever get them back. So we are very careful about adding more or losing more, because you go back to the recession in 06-07, we had 411.78 FTEs, and now we have if this budget passes, it's 403.03. So we never regained. So we're aware of both directions.
That argument, you know, it's not like we're collecting baseball cards. You guys did a great job last year without those other people. So did we really need them in the beginning? It's not that, oh my God, I have 500 people and look at me. It's, we're supposed to be doing the best job.
We are, but we do know we are aware of areas where some additional staff could target areas of need. And so those are the ones Dr. Carver talked about and said, we're going to put them in the ESSER too, because we are aware of those areas where we have needs.
Okay, thank you. That's great. Brian? Very helpful.
And Bob, you could correct me if I'm wrong. It's just, you know, I know we're getting the 3 million and we're getting the 2 million, but, you know, when you're dealing with municipal grants, especially that are coming from the federal government, they can't be used to supplant funds. So you can't say, hey, I'm getting $3 million this year, so let's cut 12 things in the budget and just throw it towards the grant. I mean, if it's a new item, then yeah, maybe you could, but you have to be very careful when you're dealing with federal money. And I mean, Bob, am I wrong? I mean, generally they don't like to see that.
I'll speak on the board, half of the board. You're not wrong.
Right.
That's all I want to say. I'll mute.
Is it possible that we could use some of the money for the IT support? We talked about an additional headcount for supporting the increased number of devices that the school has to have. And a lot of that increase there for devices and support is COVID related. Would that possibly fall under this?
It will. And are you asking me, Rob?
Yes.
Robert? Yes, it definitely will, because we do know that because we had to, all of our students brought them home, and we have a lot more damage than we typically would have with a Chromebook. So we are definitely going to have replacement greater than we typically do. And that grant funding can be used for that.
So can we take 50,000?
No. I want to go back to that. The position, the reason the technical position is in is because that is not a position
we can lose.
See temporary or a way to phase that out. And so use the grant money temporarily. That is why Dr. Carver specifically left that position in. But in terms of actual devices and things, some of that, you asked us to make a reduction of 400,000 from our 50, and some of that is what we're going to reduce because we can probably get more devices elsewhere. So are you? But the position is not a temp. We don't view it as a temporary position by any means.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go then. I'm looking around. I think I see all the Board of Finance members. I don't see any hands up. So let's get into the
motion to move the question.
Yeah, let's get into it. All right.
That's
so I'm sorry, say again, Cynthia.
Motion to move the question.
What's the question?
The overarching question that we're just discussing, which is the
Nick's points. Okay. All right,
we can go to the discussion.
All right. So again, it sounds like we need to make a number of motions, the 4 individual categories, then the totals. Brad, you have provided us these totals before. I've written them down. I'll use the numbers that I believe you have given us before, but please correct me if things have changed or if I took a bad note. All right, so, and maybe we'll just go the typical route if just for purposes of making this streamlined. Robert, I'll make the motion. If you could second it, then we'll open it to discussion. All right. So I'll make a motion to bring to the annual town meeting, the town operating budget in an amount of $26,672,410.
Second.
Discussion. Cynthia.
I'd like to make a motion to add back 100,000 to Park and Rec, which is, I have to, of course, get the 360 programs.
That's the police department.
380. I'm sorry, I had little tiny type. 380. I have it right here. Program line.
I would second that for discussion.
Okay.
Okay. Do we need any more discussion given the earlier discussion?
The only thing I would say is I would vote for that, but I think there needs to be other small reductions in other departments to make up the difference, because I don't want to add any money to that budget.
You can make those motions. I agree with you.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I'm not voting for this if the other things are not on the table.
That's the chance we take in life.
Or at least in budgeting. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to add $100,000, and we'll get into the subcategory if necessary, to the Department 380 Parks and Rec, please signify by saying aye. All right. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Dion, did you get all of that? What was the final tally, please?
So Cynthia won. It was just 1 to 6.
Okay, thank you. All right. With that motion failed, back to the prime motion or any other additional motions.
Make a motion to remove $30,000 from the overtime police account.
Second.
Discussion. All right, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, please signify by saying aye. Okay.
So it was 2 to 4?
No, 4 to 3.
Oh, Brian. So was it Brian, Cynthia, Nick?
Yes. Any other?
No sense. Motions? There's no sense.
Go
ahead, Cynthia.
I'd like to make a motion to cut 60,000 from account 450, which is the Board of Ed.
I would second.
Okay. Any discussion?
But we're talking, are we just talking the total operating budget for the town?
Are we? I thought we were talking about the whole thing as a globe.
I think the motion on the table was just the town operating budget.
Okay, fair enough. I withdraw.
Right. So we'll come back. Presumably we'll come back to it. Right.
I understand.
Anything else within the town operating budget, those 34 departments?
I don't know if this is a motion or not, but I'd like to suggest that we schedule Eileen to come back for the October Board of Finance meeting to talk to us about what's going on financially with Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I would say we don't need a motion. I have taken a note and we'll make sure that happens.
Okay, thank you.
If folks are happy with that. Karen?
I would just like to say that maybe we should ask Eileen when is a good time for her to come back. So I don't want to shortchange her. If we have a meeting in October, does that give her time to plan her winter programs? I just want to make sure we're okay with the date.
Point of order. We're way out here. This is not part of it. We just need to move on.
We'll figure it out. We'll make it work. All right, let's keep it going. Let's go. On the town operating budget, any more mini motions?
Mini motion.
Go.
I would like to make a motion, and this is based on, I think it's going to be temporary COVID, and that we won't need this. I want to cut 30,000 from account 350, the health department. Seconded for discussion. Anyone who dares.
Based on what, Cynthia?
Well, hold on. Good. Well, Cynthia's got her motion. We need a second.
Oh, sorry.
Nick, I'm sorry. Did you second?
Yeah, whoever. Yeah, if she needs one,
okay. Okay, go Dee. Sorry.
Well, no, I know what Dee's asking, and I said it before I made the motion, because it's based on COVID funds that I know will be coming to that won't be reoccurring. That we're having COVID, we're moving through the big COVID wave, and I believe that 30,000 is not a huge amount considering how much it's increased. And I know that much of that is due to COVID. That's
okay. Brian?
I think that parks, the health department, yeah, COVID may be coming to an end, but I mean, the building boom and all the restaurants are coming back. And, in fairness, Laura really does work 7 days a week. And I know that for a fact. She sends me emails on Sundays. She's stretched pretty thin. I believe last year we took some away. We didn't, take care of what we said we were gonna. So, I normally support you, but I'm not going to support a 30,000 cut to the health department.
Yeah. If I could just, Brian, could you sit back in your chair? I really agree with Brian on this. I think that we've talked about the health department and, need for additional full-time person as opposed to these part-time patchwork she's been doing. And, she's running, on all cylinders and has for a long time. And I think the funding that we have is very appropriate for that department. So I oppose any cuts there.
I think Cynthia was talking, I'm sorry, I think Cynthia was just talking that with the 1.9 million, there's going to be reimbursements.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
We can put whatever category that this money is going to the health department to fight back COVID. And 30,000, I'm sure that, emergency, they're going to get this money back into that account from all the federal money. Again, federal.
Mr. Chairman, I have to chime in here. I'm going to ask this board, please, of any department, do not cut health. Whether it's COVID or not, that department is stretched beyond its limits before this happened. So yeah, there's going to be some reimbursement, but that department needs help in the worst way. This is not a place to make a cut, please. Okay, Matt, I'm asking you.
Matt, since you piped up. But I'm thinking in terms of that, they're not going to have this big tent set up for, that must cost some money to run that, no? The vaccine stations and whatnot?
Yeah, that costs about $6,000 a day to run.
Right.
There will be reimbursements for that. What I'm saying is before COVID hit, she was still working 6 to 7 days a week then.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying, I'm looking at in this capsulization. I get what you're saying, but if it costs $6,000 a day to run, that adds up to at least $30,000. Does it not? I don't know.
I make a motion to move the question.
Yeah. All right. We have to vote on.
I second.
All those in favor of moving the question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. It looks like it's just Cynthia. This is the cut. This is the cut to health department, whatever the account is, our department is. All right. All those in favor was Cynthia. All those against, please signify by saying aye. All right. Next, any other mini motions? All right, so back to the core motion. I'll restate it. We have a motion, we have a second, and that is to move to the annual town meeting for the total town operating budget an amount of $26,672,410. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, no. All right.
I vote no.
Dion, did you get that? 6-1? Yep. Okay. Next, let's stay on the town side because we have to do the town total eventually. So staying on the town side, going to the account building maintenance 460. I will make a motion to move forward to the town meeting and amount in this account. Again, the account of 460, $350,000.
Second.
Discussion. Not hearing any discussion and taking advantage of the silence, I will ask those all in favor of the motion to please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that looks unanimous. Final account on the town side. I'll make a motion to move to the annual town meeting in the debt service account, total amount of $5,781,600
So moved.
All right, I will count that as a second. All right. Any discussion? Not seeing any discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Brad, if you wouldn't mind, just come off mute for a second. Were all of those numbers, I assume all those numbers were correct?
Yes. Cynthia, did you vote against that last motion? You're muted. Cynthia voted against that, Jan. I don't know if you got that.
Yes, I did vote. No.
Against the debt service?
No, I'm sorry. No, I got, pardon me. No, I did not vote no for that.
That debt service was unanimous.
Unanimous, yes.
So was building maintenance.
Yes.
Cynthia only voted against the town operating budget.
Sorry, she raised her hand, but I don't think she knows that.
Okay.
Yeah, she was swatting flies.
Sorry to interrupt.
All right, thank you, Brad. All right, so if those first three numbers were right, I believe now for purposes, I'll make a motion for the purpose of the annual town meeting, an amount in the total town. So town operating, Board of Ed maintenance and debt, a total amount of $32,804,048.
Correct.
Where's my second?
Second. Sleeping.
All those in favor of the, oh, I'm sorry, discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Yeah, all right, so look like Cynthia was, fair enough. Yeah, that's, okay, now we go to the Board of Ed operating 450 account. I will make a motion to send to the annual town meeting an amount in the 450 account of $49,050,088.
Second.
Discussion. Why are my boxes moving around? Trying to locate the Board of Finance members. I don't see any. Oh, Cynthia.
This is the 450, right?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to cut 60,000 from that account.
Second.
For
discussion.
My part of the discussion is, as I said before, I really believe that I know that they work really hard in the budget. I think maybe we have different, I don't live it every day, that's true, but I also know that Bethel's schools are always excellent. They always rise to the challenge. We got some situations here. I'm not saying they should count on grant money to solve their problems and, you know, like it's some fairy tale come true. But on the other hand, it is something. And I think that we, you know, I really think that we need to just cut a little bit more, and that's all.
So Cynthia, to be clear, that would be $460,000 out of the Board of Ed budget. And that additional $60,000 cannot be made up by any of the grants.
I understand that. I understand that. That's why I said it's not based on the grants. It's just based on, I know that they always rise to the challenge. And sometimes when people are, you know, taxpayers are really suffering. And actually, I will tell you this, it goes to my disappointment that no one is willing to renegotiate. There was someone who spoke and fair enough, you know, people are, their workload is twice as much, volunteering. And what I say to that is, you know, if I had a job, which I don't right now, but my job would be twice as much. And that's something that you go through. And I'm not saying anything or, you know, throwing shade on teachers at all. I'm just saying they're guaranteed employment. It's a small thing. No one will say one word about it. And that's where I stand on that. I'm not saying that I know I can't cut salaries. I know that, but I'm just, that's a little logic behind it.
That coda there makes the whole idea sound somewhat punitive. And no, I really don't support another 60,000. I think we had significant cuts to the Board of Education. And I think that they've already tried to go back to the drawing board and try to make it work. And I salute the effort that they've done so far to date. And I certainly do not support further cuts.
Okay. Any other discussion? Not seeing any other discussion. I guess all those in favor of the mini motion to cut 60,000, please signify by saying aye. Those not in favor of the mini motion to cut $60,000, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Dion, did you get that? Okay. All right. Well, there's nothing else really in the way of a mini motion on this, so let's go back to the main motion. All right, just to bring it home one more time. An amount of $49,050,088. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Nay.
Yep, nay. Got it. Okay. And I believe we just have to do one more, which is the math. Is that right, Bob, Brad, right, of all of this put together?
Yeah, I would do that. The 81 million.
Yep. Okay. I'll make a motion to move to the annual town meeting a total budget. So a budget on the town and the budget with the Board of Ed operating of $81,854,136.
Second.
It's just math, but do we want to have a discussion?
Bob, one thing, can you just check on Bob Dibble and make sure he's okay? Oh, all right, he moved. He's good. Thank you, Bob.
All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
I think that's unanimous just because it's just, okay, fair enough. It's just the math, but I get it. Yep.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So Cynthia, you voted against that?
I mean, I believe the math is correct, but yes, I'm voting against it.
Okay, I believe that we are now done.
I'd like to make a motion if I could. And, you know, agree with me not, it shouldn't take long. I would like to make a motion that prior to the town meeting that the controller's department compiles and makes available as part of the public materials an itemized account of each revenue generating department's revenue on a page separate from expenses, specifically by department rather than category. Does anyone want to second that?
I'll second it. Bob, do you not normally do that?
No, we don't do that.
They used to do it a while ago.
Not in 10 years.
Oh, well, hey,
11 years.
10 years later, we've got a new world.
10 years prior to that, I was treasurer and I don't remember ever seeing it. So that's 20 years.
Totally, that's totally fine if you're not willing to do it. I'm just trying to see if people might appreciate having it.
Cynthia, what would you use that for? How would it help?
Well, it would help me because it would be, I'd be able to see, I mean, I understand the process. I'd be able to see how much is derived from taxpayers in terms of our revenue comes from different sources. And it comes from, there's some that comes from taxpayers, there's some that comes from other sources. I just want to see it because I saw actually what Billy held up and that looked very informative. Not that we're already past the decision-making process for us. I just think that I know people have asked me about it, believe it or not. Oops.
But Cynthia, didn't we get that by department as we went through? Can't we look at OpenGov?
You know, it's not up to the
board.
OpenGov. Huh?
It's an OpenGov.
I understand that. Not everyone has access to OpenGov, so it shouldn't be incumbent on an individual Board of Finance member to compile the information, to consolidate it. I don't get paid for this. I think it's not unreasonable to think that there could be some kind of consolidation by the people who are actually presenting the numbers and the budget to do that. That's all. I mean, it's, you know, I feel like every time I want something, I have to go on an Easter egg hunt. So it's just a motion. If nobody agrees with it, that's fine.
I just want to understand, you're looking, so for each account, you just want a line that says, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to know what we're asking for. We're asking for on each account what revenue it brings in?
That the ones that do bring in revenue. just separately rather than saying this.
So
comes
like
from...
building, health.
Yeah, that's all.
Police, whatever brings in Parks and Rec.
Exactly.
I have a question.
I don't have an issue with that.
I have a question for Brad. Isn't it possible to do an extract from OpenGov, a report, which would provide this information by department?
It comes out really messy. One of the issues we have with OpenGov is they designed it to be used online and not in any other way. And it's one of the things we've been struggling with them.
Okay. And messy, I know I've tried to extract salary information, and there are probably about 7 or 8 different lines, sub departments, which are hard to piece together from department to department. Is that the similar situation you get out of OpenGov when you query for revenue?
Yes. Yeah. And some of the revenue, the way it is accounting wise, is multiple departments grouped together. So building and health money comes in together. So if that's budgeted for $350,000 of revenue, 300 of which would be building department, 50,000 of which would be health. So it's not clean per department. But if you look in OpenGov, all that money is associated with building inspection, because that's how the accounting system does it, because the money comes up together.
So if you know how to look or what to look for, you could pull it out of OpenGov, but it's just not very clear, correct?
Correct. We know where it goes. It's a hard number to present because as the son of an assessor, she would say that all tax money should be associated with the assessor's office. And the tax collector would say all the tax money that they collect should be associated with that office. So,
all right, Brian,
I make a motion. We move the question.
I'll second that. All those in favor of moving the question, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Dion, did you get that?
It was all. It was everyone.
Yeah. All right. All those in favor of the motion, as Cynthia stated it, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, please signify by saying aye. I want to be clear. The reason why I oppose it, Bob, Brad, anybody who wants it, in my experience, has been able to get whatever information that they wanted from you guys. So
apparently not, since I've been trying to get this information since February 22nd. So
well, apparently, Cynthia, missing meetings and not watching what's online is difficult.
Wait, hold on. Which meetings have I missed? Would you like to tell me how many? I think one.
I can go through the list, but I'm saying that right now, Bob and Brad have.
You're being punitive because
I'm not being punitive. I'm saying that participation on the board is required sometimes to hear all the information.
I spend on
what was the vote? What was the vote?
Thank you.
Yeah, let's get out of here because I don't even understand what this is, where this is going.
Nowhere. I'm sorry. I apologize for
going anywhere.
Okay. So we're done with that side of that part of the agenda. All right.
What was the vote?
Dion, what'd you get?
So it was 3-4.
As usual.
Or 4-3. Okay. It was 3 yeses and 4 noes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It fell.
All right, next on the agenda. Where's the agenda? Here we go. We've got the consideration.
Do you want in the motion just to make an announcement when the special town meeting is?
Sure, I guess that's right. We'll need to make I'll make a motion that the annual town meeting.
That's already been set by the Board of Selectmen. Okay. We have to do that by January 6th, I think.
But it doesn't need to be a part of, it doesn't need to be in the, okay. That was my question.
It's already set.
Okay.
You guys are off to a hook.
All right, cool. Next then, next on the agenda, consideration of the F550 Lowboy from Capital Non-Recurring. I believe this is to Matt and to Bob Dibble.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. You in the last meeting, you approved one of the big trucks for Bob so that we can What we really trying to do is get a standard replacement for vehicles that age out so that we don't get stuck and have to go for a whole season without having anything for his crew to work with. So there's actually two things. First one is a F550 lowboy. I think this replaces, Bob Dibble, remind me if I'm wrong, a 2006 model. Is that correct?
No, it's a 1999.
Oh, this is the 99. It's even older. The one behind that, well, I'm just to let you know that Bob has located a body for a truck an older truck that we can keep in service for a few more years. But the first item on the agenda is consideration of the lowboy from capital non-recurring. And this would be from the current and accumulated capital non-recurring account. And this was approved by the Board of Selectmen, subject to your approval, of course. Hold on just a second. Let me bring up the amount.
While you're looking for the amount, Matt, any questions or discussion points from the Board of Finance members?
Well, I mean, I'll jump in. This is not the second. This is the second lowboy. The patch truck, Bob Dibble, if you can just tell everybody, it is all set up for a primary snow truck. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a patch. Yeah, it has a snowplow on the front of it, and it has a dump body on the back that's set up for a hot and cold patch, heated body. That's correct.
But it's a sander body also. Is that correct?
No, the patch truck is not a sander body.
Are you going to have a drop in that one, or it's just a plow truck for cul-de-sacs?
It's just a plow truck because that truck's in parking lots downtown. So we have roof trucks that are right in that area to take care of those lots.
Okay. So, I mean, this would be the third truck kind of this quarter. And I understand we start spending the money towards the end of this year in case something else pops up. But after the third truck, how is the fleet? Are we not going to need another one, next year or what?
The only thing that's getting kind of close, I got a 2000 Sterling, that probably has to be addressed pretty soon. This one here, these trucks have been in the capital, in our capital planning budget for quite a while now.
So you're going to need another $200,000 truck next year? Sterling is one of the 6-wheels, right?
Sterling is one of the 6-wheel dumps, right? It's a 20-year, right now it's a 20-year-old truck, and it has a slide-in sander that doesn't have an all-season dump body on it also.
And Matt jumped in. You have a body for another cab and chassis that you're going to put another body on to get a couple more years on that one? Is that what he just said?
Yeah, let me just go through that real quick. Did you want to do the 550 lowboy first that I'm looking at?
Yeah, let's do one at a time.
The amount on that is $57,243.90.
And before anybody makes a motion, Bob Dibble, is that all set up with a body? And the second money you're asking for is for the other truck? Let me go through the 550 first, Nick. So we're replacing a 1999 F550. It's got 145,000 miles on it. A couple of things that haven't happened to that truck yet is like a transmission failure, transfer case failure, and it's beyond that kind of mileage. So those are big ticket money items we put in one of those trucks. It has some rod on it. It's got a ton of plowing miles on it. The snowplow itself is wore out. The frame is pretty wore out, obviously. So let me just go through the price. Now this truck is on state bid. Okay, so we purchased the purchase comes through Genghis Ford, and also it'll have a stake body, a platform dump body on the back of it, a Fisher 10-foot, Fisher 9-foot HC, which is a municipal snowplow setup from Fisher that we purchased, the lighting package, and everything's on that truck. So the chassis itself is $34,361, right? There's $4,700 in options that go on that truck, which is dual batteries, heavy duty alternators. We moved the GVW from 17,500 up to 19,000. Snowplow package, limited slip rears, so on and so forth, right? And the snowplow and the flatbed dump body that goes on the back is another $18,168. So that brings it to a total of $57,244. And again, this truck is purchased off a state bid. I couldn't find, by going through lots and stuff like that, I can't even come close to what our purchasing power through the State Department Administrative Service for this truck is. Okay, so that $57,000 is ready to go. And
Ready
it's
to go.
not a low boy. It's just a stake body, no sanding body. It's just a dump. You're going to use,
Yeah, just a stake body with a, yeah, stake body with a, yep.
Okay. And then the second amount that we're going to talk about is just to replace something on an older chassis.
Yeah, I'm ready to go on that. You ready?
Good.
No, we got to do this one first.
Can we get a vote on the other one first?
That's what, exactly. Hold on. Dee, you had your hand up. Did your question get answered?
I think it did, but I'm going to ask my question anyway, and I'm going to apologize because I don't know that much about trucks. So the last truck that we approved, Bob Dibble, came in 2 pieces. This truck is a complete truck and there's no additional cost associated with it.
That's correct.
Okay, good, thank you.
Nick, you want to make a motion?
I'd make a motion for the 57,000 change for the F550 to replace an older truck in the highway department.
Second.
Just to finish the motion, right, 57,243.90.
Yeah, that's
okay, cool. Got it. So we got the motion. We have it seconded. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, Bob Dibble, number 2.
Sure. All right. So this is a replacement all-season dump body on one of our bigger dump trucks. It's a 2006 Sterling, right? So the body that's on it, generally, you get somewhere between 10 and 15 years out of service life out of these all-season dump bodies, just because of what they're doing. They're loaded with salt all the time, so on and so forth. Now, I came across what I consider a smoking deal on a dump body, right? So the replacement dump body, let me just back up for a second. The truck this is going on has 35,000 miles on it. It's not used a lot during the summer because the employee that drives that truck also drives our street sweeper. So that truck's not, it's his assigned vehicle. It's not on a truck, out on the road most of the time during the summer. So it's a low mileage truck and the chassis is in pretty good shape. So I think, financial wise, I think it's worth us to replace the body that's in poor condition, the dump body that's in poor condition, with a newer dump body and extend the life of this truck down the road. Simply because it doesn't have a lot of mileage on it. It's in the truck and the chassis is in pretty good shape.
And I'll jump in. I know trucks. This Sterling, are we going to have hard to get parts in 5 years? A clutch rod or something in this truck? Are we going to have?
There's a whole dynamic in the Class 6, Class 7 truck business. Some of the Sterling trucks some parts have been difficult to get. Sterling parts specific. The only other thing, fuel tanks. Stuff that hangs on the firewall of the truck. Most of the air control valves and all that stuff on this truck chassis are separate from Sterling. It's got a Cummins engine in it. It's got a Eaton Fuller 8-speed transmission in it. Rayco axles in it. Those are all aftermarket things. So there's not too many parts. The dash is Sterling. The cab is Sterling. And we haven't seen some of the stuff. For example, I've had a truck where I had to have a machine shop make the clutch rod for it. It sounds crazy, but those things have occurred. I don't think we're going to get chased off of having to buy any. I don't see any big failures on this truck, right? Because it's got 35,000 miles on it. And we did, fine tooth comb the chassis and come to the conclusion that, it's in pretty good shape. And instead of going out and spending, requesting, a couple $100,000, a couple years from now to replace that chassis 3 or 4 years from now, let's put the body on it and let's see if we can stretch that thing out, maybe another 10 or something like that, or 8 or something like that. The only thing that would cause this truck to, for me to come back and say, hey, get rid of the truck is if I have a catastrophic failure, an engine blows up or something like that.
And this 35,000 miles on it, it was not stainless when it came new?
No, these are all steel bodies. So what happened was, what happened with these bodies is the brand of the body is Everest. There's been a race to the bottom because of the cost of these bodies, and especially going to DOTs. Now you got to remember, a typical state DOT will run a truck for 5 years and then they get rid of it, right? So there's been a race to the bottom in the bid process where the body manufacturers are constantly cheapening up the bodies, for a better word, right? So everybody's had to kind of go along with that so they can sell their truck bodies. Everest has been no different than anybody else. They incorporated a square tubular steel frame, and then wrapped the body sides onto that frame and just skip welded them on there, right? So the thing is basically, you know, destined to fail, rot out, you know, somewhere between that 10 and 15 years.
Okay. And so this new one, for whatever the dollar amount, we haven't got that, it's going to be a stainless and it's going to be a sander body?
It's a steel body, but it has a high carbon steel in it. Okay, one of the things with a stainless steel body, the stainless steel is a high chromium steel, right?
Yeah.
You know, we don't just use our bodies like a standard state DOT or somewhere where they're just dumping fine materials into that truck, salts or whatever, right? We're using our trucks during the summertime as construction vehicles. Stainless steel bodies don't stand up to the abuse of rocks and gravel and all those other things that go into trucks during the year. So we either destroy the body by using it as a construction body through that process, or we use a hibernal steel and then have some other manufacturing processes to allow that hibernal steel to last a lot further down the road. For example, my manufacturer now, instead of skip welding, it's a full seamless weld on all the body parts. So we're not letting moisture in between any panels and stuff.
No pockets, right? Okay.
Right, exactly. So, you know, we have processes in place, you know, to extend that life of that steel body as far as we can.
Gotcha.
And one final point, you know, back 15 years ago, you know, the Ford L8000s, that one we're just getting ready to replace. Now we had to replace those bodies 15 years ago. Those bodies were only 10 years old. Now, 15 years ago, the bodies we paid for to replace those bodies were $42,000 each. All right. You know, this thing here, we're looking at $33,297, and that includes the install of the body also.
I'm sorry, Bob, give us that number again, please.
The body itself is $24,897, and the labor to install it on the truck is $8,400, and the total is $33,297.
So that qualifies for the description of a smoking hot deal on a dump body.
Well, considering 15 years ago, I bought 4 of them and they were $42,000 a piece. Yeah, I think that's a pretty smoking hot deal.
If we carry some COVID in it, can we get some money back from the feds on this or no?
Oh, absolutely. I already got that planned out.
Listen, if this motion passes next summer, can we have a truck show at the Sycamore or no? With all your
believe me, let me make one more point. You know, we have Peterbilts. The trucks are, you know, 12 years old, 10 years old, so on and so forth, and they do have some rusting issues on them, right? Now the guys, our own guys, have made all the repairs on those trucks, right, in-house, instead of having to replace those bodies. And if you went and looked at one of those bodies, you'd think it was a brand new truck body, and we did it in-house, right? So we spent on those 3 bodies to repair any of the rusting areas on them, you know, maybe $2,500, $3,000, right? And you know this $33,000 deal is never going. You'll never see this again. You know, the next time we have to do this is probably going to be close to double that, right? So we just did three bodies. You know, we can all add here 60,000 times 3, and so on and so forth, right?
I make
them have a parade, Nick. That answers your question.
So we are going to have a touch and shine.
Sure, the guys. You won't believe how nice these guys keep these trucks.
But Bob, maybe you could take us all. You could take us all on a hayride. We could just put hay in the back.
All right, so let's get a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the dump body for an amount not to exceed $33,297 out of capital now recurring.
Second.
Got a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. Appreciate it, everybody.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Hard work, you guys.
Good job.
The next 2 topics on the agenda, I believe, are related. So perhaps they're taken as one. And we'll turn it over at this point to Matt with, I believe, if necessary, backup from Rich, Paul, and Marty.
Thank you. This is, well, as you may know or may not know, the Energy Commission put together ZREC bids. I'm not even going to attempt to try to explain how complicated those things are, but the bottom line is that we have an opportunity to move forward with solar panels on both of the two schools now being renovated, as well as the big track and field training center. The first part of this that we wanted to move forward on is just on the track and field training center. So it's going to be treated as 3 separate projects. And there's some question as to whether or not the other two can move forward because of some issues with some engineering. So they're a little bit up in the air, but the track and field training center, we do want to get approval on. And this is very similar to the solar farm lease that we did some time ago. There's no upfront cost to taxpayers. This is a lease arrangement where the savings and energy offset the lease cost and produce savings for taxpayers. If all 3 projects do move forward when they're completed over a 20-year span, that will save taxpayers $1.2 million after the lease payments are figured in. So I would actually turn the floor over to Marty if Marty has any other comments that he wanted to make on this. But we did want to move forward with the lease agreement on the track and field training center.
Yeah, just a couple items. The first is what it is that there's a master lease, and then the master lease has several sections that are attached to it. Each one is a separate section for Rockwell School, Johnson School, and the Bethel Track and Field. We're looking to go forward only for the Bethel Track and Field at this time because it's a lot easier to deal with, and we want to get started on it. The other thing is what will happen is with this lease agreement is they're going to take the monies, basically escrow enough monies to pay for the construction. And then what happens is we're going to enter into a contract with JD Solar to actually construct the panels on the roof along with other things. And they make application through the town, and then the town goes to the leasing company, and the leasing company will make the payments. Just briefly, I don't have the numbers memorized, but what happens is the cost for the leasing schedule for the Bethel Track and Field is a total of $474,139.45, and that's going to be paid back over a period of 15 years at the rate of, that's the principal amount. It's going to be paid back at the rate of $38,722 a year for 15 years. The construction contract with JD Solar is slightly different in the amount, and that is, if I can find it here.
Hey, Marty, I'm sorry, while you're looking, can you just give us that that principal number again on the high school? 474, 179 and change?
First, the lease aspect for the track and field is 474, 139.45.
139.45. So those are the lease stream payments over the 15 years.
Those are the principal payments. The actual amount that's going to be paid every year is slightly more than that. It's $38,722 a year.
Times 15.
Correct. And then the principal, the actual contract for the construction, a company by the name of JD Solar for the track and field is $469,445. And obviously, if we don't go with the lease agreement and the construction, unless you want to pay for the entire amount of the construction up front, then what will happen is we're not going to be able to move forward. They're hand in hand. Apparently, there's some tax savings for the bank in dealing with this. BSI Capital is the name of the company that's doing the leasing, and they're a subsidiary of a bank out of Florida that's done a lot of these things, and they're trying to move into the market in Connecticut, and they're doing things now.
Marty, do we have any sense for whether BCI Capital will do the deal on a partial basis, or will they require all of it to be done?
I've told them on at least 4 different occasions that we're going to start off by doing just the first. and they're in agreement. They haven't said anything. They would love to do all three immediately, but that's not going to be possible. There's some things that we're still working out with the building department, so it could be a little while longer before we can figure out what we have to do there.
Okay. The reason why I ask is I think what's in our realm, right, is the Board of Selectmen has the responsibility for capital items, large lease items. I think the Board of Finance can add to it is the financial expertise as to how it's paid for. Looking at the agreements granted very quickly, it looks like they have an implicit lease, implicit interest rate of about 2.65%.
Yeah, that's correct. But I will say this, with the markets lately changing the interest, it may not be the same for the other two schools. And it does come time, depending on what's happened with the markets.
Yeah, well, that's the exact point I was trying to make, right? That's a great rate. The 2.65% is less than some bonds that were issued by a town that Bob and Brad track. Bob, specifically the South Windsor bond issuance, which went off not that long ago for a 15-year bond at 285. So the 265 is a really good price. I just wasn't sure if that price goes up, that interest rate goes up, if we do only one of the three deals.
No, it'll stay the same. It'll stay the same for the one deal.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Nick, sorry, go.
No, and I hate solar more than I hate car insurance. Okay. So we're going to spend $800,000, and I'm just using rough numbers. We got to pay the lease payments and pay the construction company. So whatever that dollar amount is.
The lease payments are taking care of the construction. Whatever the total cost of the lease is what's going to be the total cost of the project.
Okay, so we're spending
Nick, what we have to do is this is kind of like the town guaranteeing the construction company and the leasing company that we're going to go forward. All right, but hopefully it'll all be taken care of with the lease payment.
Okay, so just the dollar amount, just for this project, forget the legal part, is $450,000, $470 or something?
The lease payment, the lease principal is $474,139. If you give me a second, I can figure out for you what the total payments are going to be over the 15 years, what it comes out to.
$588.30.
Say it again, Bob, I'm sorry?
$580,830.
Okay, and then Matt, it said in the beginning, we're going to save 1.2 million over 15 years, I believe.
No, that's not, that's only if we do all three together. They'd have to give us a separate breakdown only for the school. But you can see there is one chart that shows what some of the costs are every year. But what they did was, when they did the final chart, they did it for all three of the projects. You have to remember what happens is in year 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, all right, we're no longer paying any lease payments. So
right.
Financial savings at the last 5 years of the 20 years.
But what guarantee do we have that the equipment is not going to need to be updated after 15 or 18 years? We gave them all these pretty payments, and then, you know, I see it happen on these houses all the time. They save $20 a month, but after 15 years, it's all faded, all garbage, and they got to buy new stuff, and the payments start all over again. Is there any guarantee we're going to get an extra 10 years out of this equipment? Or
they're saying what it's going to be. You know, I can't tell you if a hurricane comes along and rips everything up. That's going to be a problem, obviously. We've already done this with Amoresco, with the solar project down at the transfer station area. I mean, it's been very successful for the last couple of years, and it's the wave of the future, unfortunately. If you don't like solar, I can't do anything about that.
And all I'm saying, at the end of the project is the stuff, yeah.
We would not be the owner. The owner is responsible for maintenance and repairing any damage, like wind damage or something. The lifespan of these things is 20 to 25 years, and they degrade at an annual rate of 1% in terms of output. The solar technology has changed a great deal in the last 10 years, and they're far more reliable than they used to be back in the days. Like, what was it, in the 70s, I think, there was solar on top of Bethel High School. Not even close. It's not even the same stuff anymore.
So Matt, are you telling us we're going to get 5 to 8 years out of this equipment after we're done paying for it? Does that seem reasonable?
It seems reasonable. Yeah, that seems, from what I know and from talking to the energy experts, that and what the previous experience has been with current technology, that does seem reasonable.
I may not be here to call you out on that, but I'm going to take your word for it.
I'll give you my phone number.
Just one clarification. We do own it. All right. The only way we would not own it is if they fail to make the payments and they've got a security interest, then they could technically take it back. But we would own it. But they have a program set up to take care of everything for the next 10 years.
Yeah, it's a maintenance contract. It's built in.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I believe, when we had the solar farm, I, said similar things, but the panels, so you're saying, because the panels will become obsolete in a couple of years. You can't even, that's true.
No.
Hear me out, Mr. Knickerbocker. It was maybe 2 or 3 years in, or it was a few years in, that panels needed to be replaced, but they couldn't be replaced same for same, that there was the next model up, that they had upgraded their panels. So what I want to know is, if there's got to be technology changes over 20 years, are they going to replace the panels, or are we going to have 20-year-old panels? Do you know what I mean? There's no way that solar panels are going to stay up to date. It's like Windows 10, do you know what I'm getting at?
What are you referring to with panels that were obsolete in a couple of years?
I'm saying that there was a couple of panels that needed to be replaced, but it doesn't matter because I can't cite the exact date. So I'll just go to my question, which is, over a span of 20 years, if in fact they get an upgraded product, are we going to have the same panels for 20 years? Meaning in 20 years, there's going to be technology that's going to shift and change with solar panels. So I just want to know if that's any part of the agreement. Do you know what I'm getting at now?
You mean like an automatic replacement?
Yeah.
Like upgrade, like free upgrade for Windows to Windows 10. You know what I'm saying? That I'm saying because 20 years is a long time in technology world.
Well, 15, right, Marty?
Well, the lease is 15, but they have
oh, yeah,
for a 20-year period. But the point is that the savings are based on what they have there now.
Okay.
Expect to take place over the next 20 years. If they come up with an upgrade, and if it's enough money that it'd be worth changing them, why wouldn't you change them?
I don't know. I just wanted to know what the deal said. So now the question's answered. So my next question is, so do you see this as 20 years and then, another 20 years? It won't be us that makes that decision, but, or we that makes that decision. I'm just thinking in 20 years, just so you know, I know that it costs almost the same amount to dispose of the panels should you not want to keep them. Not that that should stop us, but I do have a question for the whole concept philosophy of paying cash. Why are we paying interest? Why would you not? Actually, I guess it's to Mr. Manfreda. Tell me how this works out in terms of the philosophy of paying cash for things.
That's a great question, Cynthia, but this is a lease. So from that perspective, it's different, right? We're buying.
Well, we're proposing to do it this way so that there's no upfront cost to taxpayers, because there's a big upfront cost if you do it that way.
Can't you just make a lease without the Board of Finance?
No, only if it's below 50,000.
You have to have a town meeting too.
If you want to compare this to something, you can compare it to something along the lines of the Public Utilities Commission, where what happens is we need the full faith and credit of the town of Bethel in order to enter into this lease, and they want it. They want to be assured that the payments will be forthcoming.
I got it. Thank you.
I have a question for Matt. I know, as I recall, there was some concern in the renovation of the schools regarding the installation of solar in terms of the engineering of the roof systems and whether they would support the solar, you know, I can't recall the specifics. My question to you is was there an evaluation done on the field house that satisfied us that it was built and will be sufficient to support the installation of these panels?
The field house was constructed with solar in the plan right from the very beginning. Oh. We still have to have an engineer just certify what was done and say, yep, that's what was spec. What you might have heard on the other two schools is that there were some minor changes made in the field, and some of the utility conduits were hung from the ceiling, from the roof joists in some of the work areas, which wasn't in the original plan. So the architect and the engineer have to go back and just, you know, look at that again and say, okay, that's still okay. And that process is, Chris Baldwin, our building official, is on top of that, and that review process is underway right now. I believe that's going to be resolved very soon, but we do want to, like I said, we want to lock in the field house training center so we can take advantage of that interest rate.
Matt, wouldn't that so wouldn't the field house be the easiest thing to do because it's newer? And did they not put in the literally everything but the solar panels in that construction?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, that's what. Thanks.
Yeah, it was planned right from the beginning.
Any more questions from the Board of Finance or members of the Board of Finance? And Matt, not seeing any. The ask is to send this to a special meeting. Is that to get the Board of Finance? Yeah, right, Board of Finance approval.
Special town meeting, which we have set for the same date as the annual town budget meeting at 6:30 in the same location. So we can just kind of have a special meeting than the annual town meeting.
So April 5th at 6:30?
Correct.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to, well, I'm sorry, don't mean to prematurely cut off any discussion. Any more questions from members of the Board of Finance? Dee?
So I know we've talked about a lot of numbers, but I think the bottom line number is it's $39,000 for 15 years that would have to be paid for this lease. Is that correct?
Marty's gonna.
Marty, you're on mute.
Yeah, whatever I said, I don't remember if it was 39 or 38, but that's
38,722.
Right. That's
okay, sorry, I rounded. I'm sorry, but right, but that is the amount that would be charged to the taxpayers in the operating budget for 15 years.
Correct.
Thank you.
Bob, if I can say, but the town is going to be realizing payback, correct, Marty, from the utilities?
Correct.
The extra electricity that's produced, we could do whatever we want with it. We could sell it. We could, if we could, funnel it to some other operation, whatever we can do.
So essentially, would you say that those savings over time would sort of cancel out the 38,000 or 39,000 a year?
Well, yeah, you heard what Matt said, that over a 20-year period, if we did all three buildings, the savings to the taxpayers would be over $1 million.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that up. Thanks.
And you know, we've gotten this information for just a couple of days, so perhaps some of us haven't had a chance to look at it. The savings are in an analysis that was included in the materials. All right, so let me make a motion that the Board of Finance approve, as requested by the Board of Selectmen, the master lease agreement for the solar panels at the track and field facility to go to a special town meeting on Tuesday. Hold on. Monday, April 5th. Monday, April 5th at 6:30. Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying,
point of order.
Please.
Can you put in there for the master lease an amount not to exceed was $474,139.45, a principal amount not to exceed $74,139.45.
Yes, and Dion will do that.
Okay. I'm sorry, principal amount.
$474,139.
Okay, I have that. He cut out there at the end, and I didn't know if he had said something different. Okay, nope, I've got that.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It looks like that was unanimous. Dion, is that your take?
Yes.
All right. Well, we have come to the end of the agenda.
Well, no, the construction contract.
You need to make another motion for the construction itself.
Okay.
In the amount of $445,000.
All righty. So a companion motion to approve as recommended by the Board of Selectmen to move the construction contract with JD Solar in an amount of $469,445 to go to a special town meeting on Monday, April 5th at 6:30 p.m.
Second.
Marty, in an amount not to exceed?
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Are we now done with everything?
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
You get a second out of that? Nick, do you want to hang around? Oh, we got D. Okay. I'm sure Nick wanted to hang around a little bit longer. All right. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Good night, all. Stay safe.
Thank you.